Helga, I think this is no big secret that our current Chancellor Merkel is not exactly making friends in Europe, since she is working, so to speak, as the acting hand of an imperial structure. Now, among the things that you have just mentioned as contributions of Germany in the past, I think one of these people is a little bit more tricky to access, if I remember certain presentations that you gave about Bismarck in the past before. But I think this may be a good point to also say something about that tradition, because the policy that Angela Merkel represents today is not a German policy, and it's also not really in the German interest at all. So could you please say something about Bismarck's policy of a European cooperation and the development of nations as we plan to do it today from a different and new economic platform?
Well, I have said many times that I wish Germany would have been unified not by Bismarck but by Freiherr vom Stein and Wilhelm von Humboldt, which I think were the even higher statesmen than Bismarck, because Freiherr vom Stein and Wilhelm von Humboldt, who after Germany won the liberation war against Napoleon, already in the Russian campaign, where the German Prussian reformers had advised the Russian military how to defeat Napoleon, they had worked out a memorandum how to unify Germany as a constitutional state. And with that idea, they went to the Congress of Vienna and had the right to expect that German unification as a constitutional monarchy, but as a constitutional monarchy, would be the result. Now, this was outmaneuvered by Metternich and every other oligarch at the Congress of Vienna. But that would have been the true spirit of Friedrich Schiller in the best way, which Bismarck also had, but let's say he was a little bit more of a Junker at the same time. Now, Bismarck, however, made a tremendous transformation. When he became chancellor, he still was believing in free market economy, in free trade, in the interest of the Junker class of his time. But then, as I mentioned earlier, he, mainly through the writings of von Kardorff, who was the equivalent of the boss of the Industry Association at that time, he wrote a little booklet called Against the Stream, Against the Mainstream, in which von Kardorff develops how he encountered the writings of Henry C. Carey through various acquaintances and so forth. And then he started to recognize how the theory of the British free trade, that free trade is the only guarantee for wealth, was a complete fraud, especially because the British also did not follow it. They only wanted others to follow it while they kept a certain amount of protectionism themselves. And then Kardorff develops this idea how the countries who follow protectionist policies blossomed, like France, and that the theory behind it is that the only source of wealth is the increase in the creativity of the own population. And for that, you need a protected domestic market, you need investment in science and technology and education. And Bismarck then made a couple of very interesting speeches in the parliament at the time, where he clearly referred to this. Now, the funny thing is that in all the history books, all the biographies about Bismarck, you do not find one word about this. It's quite a phenomenon. You do not find references to von Kardorff, even if he is the present equivalent, or the equivalent of the present BDI or DIHK. And one would hope that some of these industrialists would read von Kardorff, would read Bismarck, who most of them admire, and they would find out that it was Bismarck's using of the economic theory of Lincoln and Carey which transformed Germany from a feudal country into an industrial nation in a very short period of time. Now, Bismarck obviously was extremely crucial for Germany, also because he was very intelligent as a diplomat. He had a very, very elaborated network of diplomatic treaties with all European nations, especially the famous Rückversicherungsvertrag with Russia, which meant basically that after the war with France, he wanted to make sure that in case of a new war between Germany and France, that Russia would remain neutral. Now, that was the main reason why Edward VII, or previously the Prince of Wales, and the British Empire did everything possible to get the emperor, the Kaiser, to kick Bismarck out, because they knew that as long as Bismarck was in this position, that he would keep Germany secure and strong. So I think going back to this period and studying it, for today's people in statescraft, one could only wish that they would look at the Prussian reformers, that they would look at Freiherr vom Stein, Wilhelm von Humboldt, who after all with the Humboldt education reform caused a complete change in the education system by defining as the goal of education the beauty of the character. I think in the present utilitarian idea of education, bachelor's and master's degrees, and total utilitarian transformation of education, to go back to Humboldt and say it's the method how to learn, it's the ennoblement of the character, which is the aim of education. That is more needed than anything else. So I think if Mrs. Merkel, who will probably not be long Chancellor in any case, and others, would go back to these Vorbilder, these ideals, I think we would be in much better shape to have people in leading positions who are educated in the best tradition of German culture and German history.